Prosperity, pleasure, and success may be rough of grain and common in fiber, but sorrow is the most sensitive of all created things. There is nothing that stirs in the whole world of thought to which sorrow does not vibrate in terrible and exquisite pulsation. The thin, beaten out leaf of tremulous gold that chronicles the direction of forces the eye cannot see is in comparison coarse. It is a wound that bleeds when any hand but that of love touches it, and even then must bleed again, though not in vain. Hi everyone, it's Namira, and today we're diving into one of the most heartbreaking yet fascinating pieces of literature ever written, Oscar Wilde's De Profundis. Now, if you know anything about him, you probably think of his razor sharp wit, his flamboyant personality, and his iconic quotes like, "We are all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars, aren't we?" Or the famous Dorian Gray. But De Profundis, it's a whole different side of him, raw, emotional, and deeply personal. So let's get into it. Picture this, it's early 1895, and Oscar Wilde is in serious trouble. He's been charged with quote unquote gross indecency, basically for being gay, which was a crime back then. Should have been careful, and he's even thinking about fleeing to France to escape the whole mess. But things don't always go your way, do they? And he ends up with a 2 year prison sentence. Now, prison back then, it was brutal. Wilde was in total isolation, sleeping on a wooden plank with no mattress, allowed just 1 hour of exercise a day, forbidden from talking to anyone. And he could not sleep, he was constantly hungry, and he was suffering from dysentery. It was a nightmare. Fast forward 2 years later, Wilde still got over 4 months left in prison, and he's desperate for some kind of creative outlet. Enter the prison governor. Now, here's where things get interesting. Prison rules didn't allow inmates to write plays, novels, or essays, but they could technically write letters. And Wilde, or the prison governor, we still don't know about that, being the genius that they were, found a loophole. The rules did not say how long a letter could be, and if a letter wasn't finished, the prisoner could technically take it with them when they left. So Wilde starts writing this massive, sprawling letter, what will later become De Profundis. Every day, Oscar Wilde was given pen and ink, and every evening, his writing was taken away. But here was the catch. They would give it back to him the next morning, sometimes in pieces, so he could revise and keep working on it. Over the course of 3 months, Wilde poured his heart into this letter, addressing it to Lord Alfred Douglas, or Bosie. I'll tell you about him later. But yeah, the man whose relationship with Wilde led to his imprisonment, and when Wilde is finally released, De Profundis is his to keep. But yeah, that is not what I came to talk about. Wilde wrote De Profundis while he was imprisoned for gross indecency. But this wasn't just a fall from grace, it was a full on face plan into despair. He had lost his reputation, his career, his family, and his freedom. And the title itself, meaning from the depths, sets the tone. It's a literal cry from the abyss. I mean, take a look at this one instant. Suffering is one very long moment. We cannot divide it by seasons. We can only record its moods and chronicle their return. He talks a lot about suffering and sorrows in De Profundis. Like in this case, he's talking about sorrow is the most sensitive of all created things. It is a wound that bleeds when any hand but that of love touches it. And he even goes as far as to say that behind joy and laughter there may be a temperament. Coarse, hard, and callous, but behind sorrow, there is always sorrow. Pain, unlike pleasure, wears no mask. Truth in art is not any correspondence between the essential idea and the accidental existence. It is not the resemblance of shape to shadow or of the form mirrored in the crystal of the form itself. It is no echo coming from a hollow hill any more than it is a silver well of water in the valley that shows the moon to the moon and Narcissus to Narcissus. At the very end, he begins talking about Christ. Christ was not merely the supreme individualist, but he was the first individualist in history. People have tried to make him out an ordinary philanthropist or ranked him as an altruist with the scientific and sentimental. One keen observation that I can make here is that he seems to lose his mind by the end of the letter, which makes it all the more harrowing and sad. And according to him, perhaps there may come into my art also, no less than into my life, a still deeper note, one of greater unity of passion and directness of impulse.